President Trump pitching his plan for dramatically simplifying the tax code in Missouri yesterday.
We need a tax code that is simple, fair, and easy to understand. That means getting rid of the loopholes and complexity that primarily benefit the wealthiest Americans and special interests. Our last major tax rewrite was 31 years ago.
This comes as a new Fox News poll shows that 49% of people polled think that tax reform this year is important. However, only 78% do not think that it will get done this year. 78%, only 14% of people think that it's likely. Joining us now is the Assistant Secretary of the Treasury for Public Affairs, Tony Sayegh. Tony, tell the people something different. How is this going to get done this year, and will it simply be tax cuts instead of tax reform?
Well, Dagan, first of all, it's great to be with you and your viewers today. We feel terrific as it relates to where tax reform and tax relief and tax cuts are all positioned to move through Congress. Listen, the president's been leading on this issue since his campaign. He largely ran and won on his economic vision to grow this economy, grow wages, increase job creation in this country, good-paying jobs. Since that time, and back in April, we laid out a framework from the administration on what we thought tax reform and tax cuts should look like. Secretary Mnuchin from the Treasury and Gary Cohn from the National Economic Council have been working through the summer with our congressional counterparts to make sure we actually have a framework that then could move through what is the regular order of Congress, where it goes up through the committees of jurisdiction, Ways and Means, the House, Finance, and the Senate, so then others get to have their contributions to what ultimately becomes tax reform. I think we're being underestimated. Listen, I understand the cynicism. I do. Washington for decades has been broken, has been a place where obstruction and progress collide. But we are changing that, and that really is because of the presidential leadership you saw yesterday in Springfield, Missouri, which, by the way, I will mention, Dagan, is the birthplace of Route 66, which used to be called America's Main Street. And that's really where we're trying to focus the majority of our positive impact as it comes to tax cuts and tax reform.
That was a strong moment in the president's speech. I was talking to Lee Carter. You know, she did analysis of people's reaction to the speech yesterday. That was one of the strong moments. But the details are still few. There was the blueprint that came out in the spring from the Treasury Department, one specific that has been brought up even by Gary Cohn in a recent interview, repealing the deduction for state and local taxes. Major pushback from Democrats on that, and even Republicans in high-tax states like New York.
Look, we are trying to make real change to this tax code. That means eliminating loopholes and deductions that have favored, frankly, very few taxpayers in this country. The state and local income tax deduction, frankly, hurts me as a New Yorker, but it helps many Americans because that's close to $2 trillion in paying for what we hope to be meaningful tax reform for everybody else. Look, Dagan, the tax code in the last 30 years since it's been changed has largely worked for the wealthy and those who will have powerful special interests representing them. Who it hasn't worked for, rather, is the American worker, the small business, that hard-working Main Street shop owner. These are the people we need to reframe the focus of what we try to bring via benefits through tax reform.
Tony, when are we going to see a bill? That's the real nuts and bolts of it. When's a bill coming? When will we have something to read?
So, look, it's already being taken up in September. It's coming up through both of the committees of jurisdiction, as I mentioned. We know regular order is what Congress wants. The big criticism of the administration during the health care fight and the congressional leadership then was that the health care bill didn't go through regular order. Chuck Schumer, the Democratic minority leader, actually said that having it go through regular order while an inside the baseball, inside the beltway term was a prerequisite of having any consideration for bipartisan tax reform. We're doing that. So that means, look, we lay out the framework, we lay out the principles, we work with the administration and Congress, but we largely let Congress have its opportunity to draft up this bill, and we feel it will happen this fall, and it will work through to a point where we'll get tax reform done and tax cuts done this year. It has to be done this year because it has to have the economic benefit and the impact immediately. We have an anemic economy that the president inherited. We just got fairly good growth numbers at closer to 3%. We've been on an average of 2% for the last 8 years.
Jobs
That's not healthy.
I want to listen to President Trump calling out Congress for working together to overhaul the tax code from yesterday. Listen to this, Tony.
This is our once-in-a-generation opportunity to deliver real tax reform for everyday, hardworking Americans. And I am fully committed to working with Congress to get this job done. And I don't want to be disappointed by Congress. Do you understand me?
Oklahoma Congressman Tom Cole pushed back on the Commander-in-Chief's comments, told the AP, "You're not going to bully United States senators. This isn't The Apprentice." Well, I will add this, Tony. He knows that congressmen, people in the House of Representatives, are up for re-election, and if they don't get it done by the end of this year, then they're going to be out of luck come next November.
Look, and it's not bullying, it's using the bully pulpit to advocate for real serious tax reform that helps hardworking middle-income Americans, that actually changes who benefits from this economy, expanding it to those hardworking Americans who have been shut out by a tax code that simply does not work for them. This president is unafraid when it comes to using the bully pulpit of his office to talk about job creation, to talk about wage growth, and to talk about massive sustained economic growth that will bring back many sectors of our economy that have really struggled.
Yep.
So we're proud of that fact, and the president took his idea of the American model, leveling the playing field for American workers through our tax code, to Missouri, and people have to listen to him. In Congress, nobody wants obstruction.
He called out Claire McCaskill, the Democrat, by name yesterday. Real quick, is there anything, I'm putting you on the spot, is there anything that could be in a tax bill that would cause the president not to sign it into law?
Look, we feel very good about the cooperative relationship we have built. We have laid out key principles. We're working with Congress. We feel that this process is going to result in a tax reform and tax cut bill that will help all Americans, not just a few, and we're ready to do it and do it this fall.
I have 2 words for you, Mr. Sayegh. Bring it. We're waiting.
You got it.
Okay, Tony Sayegh, thank you so much. Tony Sayegh with the Treasury Department.